Welcome to the Beta Tau Alumni Association's inaugural pre-homecoming speaker series. My name is John Jackson, chairman of the BTAA. The Beta Tau Alumni Association was founded in 2020 in an effort to engage the talent and treasures of a network of men who have benefited from an outstanding Xavier University education, as well as a brotherhood built through the Beta Tau chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha. Our association includes a network of educators, judges, doctors, lawyers, fathers, community organizers, who over the past 2 years alone have come together and contributed more than $150,000 to Xavier University to support scholarships and to provide grants to the Beta Tau chapter to support these young men in their social and educational programming to improve college life and the overall college experience. This speaker series is a deliberate effort to mobilize the BTA network and our friends within the Xavier community to meet a critical need of the moment. Tonight, as we approach our Xavier homecoming celebration in November, we also approach a critical midterm election across the nation. And simply stated, a voteless people is a hopeless people. As such, this speaker series is focused on mobilizing our Xavier and BTA network to ensure we meet the moment and ensure that we get out the vote. It's not only our duty, but it's the reason why we are here today. So enjoy the program, but more importantly, we hope that you will get with the program and join the BTAA in our effort to mobilize friends, family, and to get out the vote. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the program.
Greetings, I'm Ronald Verrett, president of Xavier University of Louisiana. I would like to acknowledge the alumni of the Beta Tau chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity for coordinating this program, welcoming our alumni and friends who are joining us today. Xavier University is the nation's only Catholic and historically Black university. Rooted in faith, we are committed to academic excellence and promotion of a more just and humane society. Xavier University has the distinction of being top ranked in upward social mobility and a top producer of African American physicians and pharmacists. We recently announced a Bachelor's of Science in Robotics and Engineering, making Xavier the first HBCU to implement such a program. Our students are prepared academically and socially to move beyond the institution's walls as servant leaders committed to uplifting our communities. During the 1960s, at the urging of the then SGA president, we housed the Freedom Riders who needed a safe haven here while in New Orleans. Today, our students log thousands of service hours focusing on environmental justice, hunger, homelessness, and youth education, to name a few. Xavier's history of academic excellence, leadership, service, and advocacy is cemented in our nearly 100-year history and will continue to serve as a conduit for equity and civil rights throughout our existence. I thank you.
Hi, I'm Zion Ruiz, a senior biology pre-medicine major from New Orleans, and I currently serve as the 8th Mr. Xavier University of Louisiana. Today, I will be discussing 3 ways that I enhance my abilities as a student leader. Number 1, keeping up with the news. I don't know if you've heard, but the midterm elections are slowly approaching, and they begin on November 8th. Therefore, it is important to have all students registered to vote. It is important and necessary. Earlier this semester, the Alphas collaborated with NAACP to host a voter registration drive. There are events just like this that are important to increase the amount of students registered to vote and encourage them to go to the polls to vote. Secondly, community service. The most impactful community service project I was part of this semester was the Water Drive for Jackson, which was hosted by the Beta Tau chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Together, we were able to collect over 2,000 bottles of water and help over 800 families. Always remember, when there's a family in need, be the helping hand. And lastly, keep your initiatives at the forefront. For me, that would be male empowerment. The male population on Xavier University of Louisiana's campus is about 30%. Therefore, it is my job to make a space that is safe and also empowering for the males. Hosting events such as Suited Up, where I encourage all males to come out in professional attire. Also hosting male talks with the alphas. These allow for males to discuss mental health, difficulties overcoming obstacles, the pressures of being a man in society nowadays, dealing with toxic masculinity, also dealing with relationships. All of these different conversations are being able to be held at these male talks. And lastly, hosting events such as The Upgrade, where I'm providing professional headshots for the fellas, bringing in people to discuss resume tips, interview skills, getting them sized for suits, and things of that nature are all part of my plan to enhancing the male empowerment on the campus. Thank you.
Welcome back, BTA members and Xavierites. We have all lived long enough to know that life is about seasons. Sometimes you're hot and sometimes you're cold. But the worst place that we can find ourselves is in a perpetual state of lukewarmness, where we are neither bringing the light nor closing the door on darkness. As Xavierites, greatness has been poured into all of us. We have been given a calling to push progress, social progress, medical progress, civic progress, and spiritual progress. As such, there are consequences to being a lukewarm Xavierite. If you're asking what are those consequences, you are in for a treat tonight, because we have one of the most eloquent orators and prophetic pastors in America, a brother of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, to tell us about the consequences of a lukewarm Xavierite in the midst of a need to push progress. He is none other than the Reverend Dr. Frederick Haynes III, pastor of Friendship West Baptist Church in Dallas, Texas. Without further ado, enjoy the words of Dr. Frederick Haynes III.
Let me express my appreciation to President Xavierite, who gives such laudable leadership to the great Xavier University, but also to Chairman John Jackson, who of course is our chair for the Beta Tau Alumni Association. I salute you, and I trust and pray that all of you will enjoy this exciting season of homecoming and celebration. I'm honored to share and to be a part of what you are doing. Especially do I appreciatively applaud you for your consciousness and your social justice IQ, which recognizes that we've got to be engaged in pushing progress, because there are consequences to being a lukewarm Xavierite. I like that. That's the theme that you have given me. And so here it is, my attempt to unpack your powerful theme that speaks to what it is we are up against and dealing with as a community in what Maya Angelou often referred to as these yet-to-be United States of America, pushing progress, the consequences of a lukewarm Xavierite. You've often heard it said, if you don't have a seat at the table, you will end up on the menu. I like that because it speaks powerfully to the fact that whenever we participate in democracy, we discover that democracy is not a spectator sport. Since democracy is not a spectator sport, we cannot afford to sit on the sidelines and allow the game to take place, and we have nothing to do with who wins and who loses. Because if we have nothing to do with who wins and who loses, we lose. And so again, I begin with that powerful quote that if you don't have a seat at the table, you will be on the menu. That's powerful, and it reminds me of a story told by professor at Princeton, Cleo LaRue. He told the story about a young man who had graduated from med school, and he owed it all to the sacrificial work of his grandmother, who, in spite of not being able to spell education, she ensured that her grandson that she had raised was going to get an education. He received his education, walks across the stage, and he makes up his mind that there is no way he can move another further without saying something in a tangible way by way of appreciation to his blessed grandmother. And so he was able to buy this parakeet, this parrot that spoke 5 languages, and he sent the parakeet, he ordered the parakeet, had the parakeet shipped to his beloved grandmother. His grandmother receives it, but he does not hear from her. That's strange as far as he's concerned, because his grandmother always was one who pushed home training and saying thank you when someone does something nice for you. Several days go by, and the young doctor picks up the phone, calls his grandmother, and says, "Grandmother," the moment that she says hello, "I'm so glad to hear your voice, but I haven't heard from you. I sent a gift to you in the form of a parakeet, and I just want to know, how do you like it?" To which the grandmother responded, "Well, grandson, it's like this. It's a pretty thing, but I have to admit it didn't taste good. It had a strange taste to it." And when the grandson heard that doctor was aghast, and the doctor said, "What, you ate it? Did you eat the parrot? And she said, "Yes, but it was real nasty." He then said, "That wasn't to be eaten. That was to be put on display. That was a rare parrot that speaks 5 languages, and you ate it." To which the grandmother responded, "Well, if he spoke all them languages, he should have spoke up." I love that metaphor right there, because that grandmother was saying that parrot ended up on the menu because it did not speak up. It ended up on the menu instead of having a seat at the table because it did not speak up. What are we suggesting? We are suggesting that we live in a nation where if we don't exercise our right to vote and mobilize to get the vote out and organize to ensure that there is accountability for what takes place after elections, so that elections have consequences that we love to live with. If we don't do that, we'll be just like that parakeet that was gifted and talented and rare and had so much going for it. That parrot that could speak 5 languages, but the parrot did not speak up. I hope you hear me well, because we live in a nation that wants to put us on the menu. And as long as we are lukewarm in our participation in the political process, as long as we sit on the sidelines and watch political games being played, the real deal is we are going to end up on the menu. And when we are on the menu, the sad reality is it shows up in so many ways. I hope you recognize, as brilliant as you are as Xavierite, you know history, and you recognize that every time there has been perceived black progress in this nation, there has been a clapback of regress. Yes, watch what happened in the aftermath of what? Emancipation, and as well as the Reconstruction era, where black people were not just set free but empowered in the political process and making a difference with senators and governors all across this land. But then we had the clapback of regress and retrogression. That clapback manifested itself in the 1896 passage of Plessy versus Ferguson, which legalized segregation. No, it legalized Jim and Jane Crow oppression and apartheid in these yet to be United States of America. That was the clapback to Reconstruction and emancipation. But we kept on progressing as a people in spite of it. And as a consequence, in 1954, you had Brown versus the Board of Education, which provided the legal framework for breaking the back of Jim and Jane oppression and apartheid in this country. And as soon as that took place, within a year, there's Rosa Parks taking a stand by refusing to give up her seat on the bus. And then you have the 381-day Montgomery bus boycott, where, to use the language of Martin Luther King Jr., Negroes straighten their backs up, and whenever you straighten your back up, you're on your way somewhere, because no one can ride your back unless you are bending over. And yes, I guess I'm trying to say, Xavierites, if you are lukewarm, it means you are acting as a bent back Negro, a bent back black person. As long as your back is bent, that is a consequence of a lukewarm Xavierite. Please don't move through life with your back bent. Don't move through life not doing what you should do and could do. But not only that, watch this. The civil rights movement from 55 to 68 resulted in the passage of the 64 Civil Rights Bill, the 65 Voting Rights Act, the 68 Fair Housing Bill. All of those became laws, but then there was what? The clapback and pushback of regress and retrogression. You remember what happened, the election of Richard Nixon, and in the book Nixon's Piano, we discovered that in a subtle way, they decided to use race in a real sense to ensure the election of Nixon. Not only Nixon, but then you had Reagan, and Reagan goes to Mississippi, lifts up states' rights laws. All of those are reflections of the clapback and pushback and regress and retrogression to perceived black progress. Well, let's bring it on up to the 2000s, because after the election of Barack Obama, then you had the election of a twice impeached, vanquished ex-president who is known for lying and corruption. That was pushback to perceive black progress. Wait, I got to keep it moving, because now we have on the Supreme Court a brilliant black woman as vice president, a real brilliant black woman. And if we are not careful, there will be clapback and pushback that will result in regress and retrogression. And yet we will not do that, because that is the consequence. Wait, that's the consequence of a lukewarm Xavierite. But we refuse to be lukewarm, because we are what? Pushing progress. And when we push progress, it means these two things that I'm through. Number one, it means that we have the right and the responsibility, here it is, to conceive and cast a vision of what this nation ought to look like. That's exactly what happens when you vote. When you vote, it's not just who you are voting for, it's what you are voting for. I think I said something right there, because it's not just the person on the ballot, it's the policies behind that person on the ballot. The question right now is, do you recognize the vision of possibilities that is literally in your hands? It's because all of us must have a dream. I guess I'll quote Langston Hughes. Langston Hughes put it like this: hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams go, life is a barren field frozen with snow. It's time for us to make sure that all of us have a dream. Dr. King shouldn't be the only one who has a dream. You ought to have a dream of what your community looks like, of what your city looks like, of what your parish looks like, of what your county looks like, of what your state, of what your nation looks like. And then when you vote in alliance with who lines up with your dream, because it's not just who you are voting for, it's what you are voting for. And the bottom line is, if you don't vote for your dream, you've got to live with someone else creating a nightmare, and that nightmare that they create for you will be because you've been lukewarm instead of pushing progress. I'm loving that right there. So make sure when you vote that you already have prayed about and thought about the dream you have for what should be. And if you have a dream for what should be, that means you can overcome what is. If you have a dream for what should be, the good news is this nation will become closer to what it can be. And so I encourage you to make sure that you vote. Why? Because it's not just who you vote for, but what you are voting for. It's not just the politician, it's the policies behind that politician. I hope you have a vision that will call for, here it is, the cancellation of student debt, because if you don't have that vision, then a nightmare of mounting student debt with high interest rates will continue to abort the future and possibilities of our children. I hope you have a vision of a climate that is clean, because our planet is on fire. I hope you have a vision of environmental justice, because sadly too many of our communities are saddled with toxins or infected by toxins because of environmental racism. I hope you have a vision of economic empowerment, because too many of our communities are broken by economic exploitation coming from financial predators like payday and car title loan stores. I hope you have a vision, my sisters and brothers, of education for our children, where books are not banned, but books are open to open up the minds of our children that they may dream of possibilities. I hope you have a vision of what can be, because if you have a vision of what can be, it will show up in your vote, because voting is not just about who you vote for, but what you vote for. It's not just about the politician, it's about the policies. I've got to quit, but I got to give you one more thing, and that is when you vote, when you're pushing progress. I love that, Xavier. When you're pushing progress, you know what you're saying? In essence, you are declaring, I'm pushing progress because I'm going to vote in order to restructure this hierarchy of value in this country so that we can have a nation of liberty and justice for all. I think I said something right there. Eddie Glaude Jr., professor of African American studies at Princeton, he puts it this way: we've heard in this nation about the achievement gap, the educational gap, the wealth gap. All of that is fueled and set up by what he calls the value gap. I said something right there. The value gap means that some people matter more than others. And when some people matter more than others, and it shows up in policies, it shows up in your structure. And when it shows up in your structures and systems, it simply means that those who matter most get the best, and those who matter least get the worst. And we know how that has played out in these yet to be United States of America. No wonder Martin Luther King Jr. quoted James Baldwin toward the end of his life and wondered if he had integrated black people into what he called a burning building. A burning building means there's something in the structure that is flammable. There's something in the structure that is not what it should be. The wiring must be redone. And when we vote, when we mobilize to vote and then organize to hold accountable those who we vote in, because we're lifting up a vision of what we dare to believe can happen in this country, the good news is that we create a structure of liberty and justice for all. And that is why we must push progress. If you push progress, you won't be a lukewarm Xavierite. If you push progress, you will be a thermostat in this country and not a thermometer in this country. If you push progress, you will be the headlight in this country and not the tail light in this country. Those are metaphors handed to us by Martin Luther King Jr. A thermostat controls the environment. A thermometer is controlled by the environment. That's the option you have, to be a thermostat or a thermometer. If you vote, you're a thermostat. If you don't vote, you're a thermometer. If you vote, folk, you're a headlight. A headlight, I'm about to shout. A headlight works best when life goes dark. It's dark right now in this country. There are those who made up their mind if they cannot run this nation, they will ruin this nation. This nation, sadly, that was born in a hostile takeover of genocide and shaped by anti-black racism. This nation now, because of that ugliness in its DNA, is known as the land of election deniers and voter suppression, because Raphael Warnock is right. Some people don't want some people to vote, but because they don't want us to vote, that means I'm going to do exactly what they don't want us to, because if I do exactly what they don't want us to, we will recreate the structure. We will restructure this nation into one of liberty and justice for all. I close with this. Malcolm X, in the autobiography of Malcolm X, written by Alex Haley, shares that in the aftermath of the murder of his father, probably by the Ku Klux Klan, that his family was stricken by impoverishment. And he said he often would go hungry, but he would go to his mother and he would say to his mother, "Mommy, give me some food, give me some food." And he was relentless. And finally, she would give him what he asked for, something to eat. And Malcolm testifies that his mother would then say, "Why can't you be quiet like your little brother instead of always making so much noise?" Malcolm looked at his brother who was quiet, but watch this, still hungry. Malcolm made noise and he got fed. Well, I think that's a good way to close, because whatever else we better do during these midterm elections and every election going forward is make noise or we'll go hungry. So let's make noise until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Let's make noise and elect politicians who will do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with God. Let's make noise. And if we make noise, I got to quote Curtis Mayfield now, we can say we're moving on up. We're a winner and we're moving on up. If we make noise, we can, to quote Kendrick Lamar, testify, here it is, all's my life I had to fight, but since God's got us, we gonna be all right. So go ahead and make noise. And if you make noise with your votes, you will articulate your voice. And if you articulate your voice, America will finally become one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We pushing progress because there are consequences to a lukewarm Xavierite. I ain't lukewarm, I'm on fire. God bless you.
Greetings to each of our Xavier alums, family, and friends. My name is LaKenya Collins, and I am the Executive Director for the Beta Tau Alumni Association. Thank you for joining us for our first inaugural Homecoming Speaker Series as we celebrate homecoming at Xavier University. What an amazing speech by Dr. Frederick Haynes. The elections that are coming soon are so important and will require all of us to participate in the election process. If we want change at any level of government, the power has been given to the people to choose. Let's stand together and make our voices heard on Election Day. The Beta Tau Alumni Association was created to strengthen the impact of the Beta Tau Alumni Network on educational and social programs at Xavier University of Louisiana and across the country. The Beta Tau chapter has graduated hundreds of young men with various professional backgrounds across the globe. The Beta Tau Alumni Global Network includes Presidential Medal of Freedom recipients, general presidents, judges, mayors, doctors, teachers, pharmacists, CEOs, lawyers, college presidents, community organizers, and most esteemed fathers. Yes, they can do it all. The network's connective tissues and mission remains scholarship, equity, and impact. Just look at the work being done by the undergraduate chapter. Their commitment to service to all has left an amazing impact in the Jackson community as they deal with the water crisis. We are looking for all of the Beta Tau alumni members to join the Beta Tau Alumni Association. There are different levels of membership, and to learn more about membership levels, please visit our website by going to www.btaax.org. That is www.btaax.org, and learn more about the various membership levels that we offer. It has been stated that if you want to go fast, you can go alone. But if you want to go far, you go together. That's exactly why your membership in the Beta Tau Alumni Association is so important. We need you in order for us to make our impact go farther. We can't do it alone. Please take this journey with us and join today. Can't wait to see each of you on the yard at Homecoming 2022 at Xavier University. Thank you.